What up, what up, what up, everybody? It's your man, Dame DNYDC, host of the Two Mics Up podcast. Here today with a very special guest, a very close guest to me. We've collaborated before, and I was able to join this gentleman on his platform. And today I have the opportunity to return the favor. This young king and this man is doing some great things out in the Seattle, Washington area. And I'm going to stop running my mouth, and I'm going to allow our guests to go ahead and jump in. Tyson, go ahead, man, and introduce yourself to everybody that's listening today.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction. My name is Tyson. I'm 24. I live in Seattle currently, or Issaquah to be exact. And I have a podcast based around interviewing business owners and creators because I feel like that's something we need to push more of in our community.
Without question, without question. That's why I say we've had the pleasure of, like I said, joining him on his and watching him from afar. And watching him and his growth take off has been amazing. But what I would like to know, here, Tyson, first of all, what is it that inspires you? And secondly, you know, how did that inspiration lead maybe to you creating your platform with the Tyson Vibe podcast?
Well, I had two shifts. What first, I naturally want to stand out from the crowd. So that used to inspire me, but now I'm more so like, how can I help my people out? That's what like really inspires me. Just giving information back any way I can. I mean, I'm not Superman, but I can give just if I can just give anything back to people who look like me but are younger than me, that would be great.
Mm.
As far as the podcast, I mean, I'm just providing information, providing more resources for people, mostly Black listeners, like where they want to shop and do business at, or if they want to like leave their 9 to 5 and create a YouTube channel or something. That I definitely interview people from that range.
Well, what I do like, and tell me, or better yet, you tell our listeners, what is the tagline? Because I really love, your tagline that you use for your podcast, and where did that tagline come from? Because I think it's really,
It
it sticks.
success. It changed
Yeah.
it. Yeah. Yeah. So me and my mentor for the podcast, we have been having a lot of clubhouse conversations. Disco, shout out to Disco.
Okay.
A lot of clubhouse conversations about the tagline for the podcast. Like what call to action are we trying to tell the listeners? And we just went through a lot. I threw some combinations out, wasn't really feeling it, and then I want to say maybe a month or two ago, we finally decided it's vibe to success. And when you listen to my show, it's really just a relaxed, vibe full conversation, and you just take in information out like how can I do this, how can I do that.
And that's what I love about it. It is relaxed. It's comfortable. It doesn't feel invasive, or some people do like that in your face style. But I do like that. Again, similar to what we do here. You're educating people. You're sharing knowledge, and I maybe that's why it was so comforting for me, and appealing to me. To be able to work with you, in this cross collaboration. Uh, can you tell me, or in our audience, what is maybe, because sometimes you have an overall mission. What do you see like the overall mission as? With the Tyson vibe.
Well, Tyson's vibe, it's really just Tyson's like corner, Tyson's area. We just vibing. That's it. Nothing too serious, nothing too stressful at all. It's a playful conversation, but with important topics. And this is really honestly, I want to push people to like you don't have to stay in the 9 to 5 world forever. I'm not
Mm.
shaming anyone who does that, but you can always just like follow your dreams, follow your passion, especially the Black listeners. Like that's
Mm.
the like it's follow what you want to do. Everyone's an artist of some sort. Do what you want to do that makes you happy. Like that's the
Oh,
real end goal of the podcast.
I agree with that, because that there's a drive and a motivation, with that, in your 9 to 5, or even in some of your other pursuits outside of that. Um, and we were just briefly talking off air, trying to, have that content, that critical content that really works not only for you but for your platform and the people that are following and listening. I'm curious to know for you, when you're not motivated, what is it that helps, Tyson say, you know what, I'm going to get up today and I'm going to go ahead and make this happen.
I mean, I know where I came from, and just by the books you read, is they always encourage you to like to keep pushing forward. So that's what really motivates me. You don't want to go backwards in life. I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get 1% better each and every single day. So I just I just have it instilled in me that I need it. It just has to be done. Which is
Mm.
discipline, doing things you don't want to do for like
Hmm.
the long term benefits. It just has
So
to be done. It's just a switch in my body.
do you find, or do you see it more in your age group where they have that, like you said, that switch, or is it something that is inherent maybe just in you, and you try to share that with others to keep them motivated as well? Like, because I know in my age group, we kind of come from that. If you want certain things, you got to work for it, and not to say that your group doesn't, but it seems
Mhm.
like you guys have to be a little more motivated by something.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, I'm confident. So I'm gonna say I'm one of the few in my age group that says if you want something, you have to go work for it. Because
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in poverty to a certain extent, so I know like when it's like hunger is in your belly and like you starving, like you gotta work to move and advance. But there's definitely some people, or a lot of people in my generation, who they need a prize shown to them to let them know they need to. It's like just do
Yeah,
it regardless.
and that was a great phrase that you apprised, because that's really what I was trying to really get at. And I don't think there's nothing wrong with it, but I think that somehow makes it a little bit more of a disconnect. And I'm only asking that for those of us, because we've talked even in the past. Sometimes why I really enjoy you and the time that we had speaking. You're really working like I am to connect that bridge between the generations, and that word that you use, prize. I think that really helps me now have a better understanding on maybe sometimes when I'm dealing with someone who may not be as motivated as you, I might have to dangle that carrot.
Mhm.
So I'm glad that you shared that, because it gave me a whole new look, and I hope those that are listening can kind of pick up on that as well. um I also, with that, want to know, Tyson, how are you helping in your mind changing the lives of young men and women that maybe you cross path with, maybe through your podcast or just through everyday life? Because I also see, you're physically fit. You do a lot of things. I see, in your posts, you're out in the mountains, and you're very adventurous and outgoing. So how do you, help change lives of those that you cross paths with?
Uh, well, mine has been kind of biased, but in a good way. Like, I know I talk to a lot of black women. I
Hmm.
want to give black women the confidence that they need, or if they may lack at the time, to definitely go out and pursue what they want to do. Because just talking to a lot of black women, they feel alone. They feel like confused. Some of them, not all of them. They
Hmm.
feel alone. They feel confused. They feel like, maybe starting a business is nearly impossible. So I definitely have like one-on-one conversations with black women, and I was really heavy on Clubhouse and just having Clubhouse rooms with multiple
Hmm.
black women, and just trying to give them the confidence, giving them my podcast for word of mouth. Telling them about the guests that I did interview and how they had a lot of like trauma growing up.
Hmm.
Like it's impossible, but sometimes people just need to be reminded. But I don't have an issue like reminding them like we're the original like man and woman. Like we can really accomplish anything that we put our mind to.
Hmm. Wow. I really have to. You mentioned Clubhouse a couple of times. I'm trying to get myself acclimated. Um, have you found, though, has that been another great outlet for you in your podcast and moving, in the direction that you want to go? Has Clubhouse really helped you uh, as another stream?
Absolutely. Majority of the people I already have interviews with that are
Mm.
released are from Clubhouse. I was fortunate enough to interview somebody, and then he invited me to a group full of entrepreneurs. So I got to network from them, purchase from them, wear their clothing. It's been great. And then shout out to my friend Andrea, who actually invited me because you got to be invited.
Hmm.
So shout out to her for inviting me on Clubhouse.
Okay, yeah, because I mean I'm on, and I'm fairly new to it, so I'm just trying to same here, trying to understand the medium, and really trying to figure out the best way to network and connect. And I'm just glad to hear, as another.
That's for everything. Yeah.
It really okay. So I'll definitely have to dive in a little bit more and make sure that I get my feet wet and follow along with that.
Yeah.
So, with technology and all the changes,
Hmm.
and talking about these different mediums, I really have to ask you then, in all honesty, you know um where do you see yourself in Tyson podcast or the Tyson Vibe podcast, say in the next 3 to 5 years?
Next 3 to 5 years, I definitely want to have different, just camera. I want to have like a camera recording me while I do interviews. I want to travel and meet people and do interviews. I want to grow it to a network. And I'll
Mm,
definitely have some ebooks, some merchandise. Um, I guess the challenge for me is trying to get it to the correct target audience. Sometimes your target audience is kind of set up by nature. Like
mm-hmm.
you're not really intended to talk to a certain the people who actually listen, but a different group of people. So I definitely want to like chop down on my target audience, because
Mm.
when I talk about like our issues as a community, it's not really, it's for like us to listen, not for any other communities. And no knock against those communities, but
No,
sometimes information can get into the wrong hands.
no, I understand that. I understand that you're trying to find that perfect. Well, not to say the perfect niche, but you're looking for your niche in that community that's really like vibes with Tyson's vibe and really speaks to it. And I get it. We have had that struggle here trying to really navigate to that. So I'm sure you will find that. But you mentioned something too, wanting to branch out and connect. How has the pandemic, in your opinion, slowed you or hindered your progress, or has it helped your progress with what you're doing, with your podcast and your platform?
I'm gonna say it's helped my progress because I'm coming up on 52 episodes, which is a whole year in a couple of weeks. So it helped because I have a web based podcast right now. If I like relied on traveling and all that just to interview people, then
Hmm.
of course it would have dampened it. But
Right.
it I would say it helped because everyone's on their phone or on their laptop, so you can easily communicate with people. So it helped.
Mhm. That's awesome. Yeah, we're same here. We're about the same. We're coming on our first year. 2 seasons. Um,
Congrats, congrats.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. And it is amazing. I will say, the pandemic in different ways. I think for us here in the DMV, it's been a tale of two worlds. I think some of the local opportunities were definitely dampered and hampered because of the pandemic.
Mhm.
However, from a platform of being able to, like you said, get your web based platform and your social media and your content and things that you're doing, so that's steady now. So that's like a natural thing. Uh,
Yes. Oh yeah.
so now to be able to, hopefully, we don't regress into this pandemic, and with things opening back up, we'll be able to now add on a lot of the local events, here in the DMV. So I want to ask too. So where with you, a lot of your content. You mentioned you get through Clubhouse and different things like that.
Mhm.
How do you see, or how do you feel like, outside of Seattle? Because I always wonder, outside the DMV, I look a lot of times like, how are we doing outside of our base? Where do you see, or how do you feel you're being consumed and watched outside of Seattle? Has it been positive?
Definitely, especially in the New York area. I did make a lot of New York connects during this
Great.
pandemic, and thanks to Clubhouse with that room.
Hmm.
So I'm doing really good. I don't know about other areas. I know I have one major listener in Canada,
Hmm.
and so I want to say is Seattle, New York. It's weird. Seattle, New York, and
Hmm.
Canada. Those are
Yeah.
like my three like hotspots I know for certain right now.
Yeah. See, and it's the same thing. It's funny enough. We sit and we talk every 2 weeks, and we look at the number. And oddly enough, Seattle is definitely one of our hottest spot, and I have to attribute it to you. So thank you.
Right on.
But it really is, and that's why I say I want to return the favor. Make sure we can do whatever we can to help you. Here with the listenership and followers here in the DMV. And if it's okay with you, before we release this episode, I will want to be able to share the episode I did with you. If you don't mind, we'll work out something to restream it or republish it here.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, great. I just want to make sure you guys heard it here. If you haven't, see me on Tyson's podcast, make sure you tune in and I'll let you know when that is. And before we move in to our next segment, I just want to take a moment to thank a couple of our sponsors of the Two Mics Up podcast, Next Level Keys and Riddick Entertainment. Here at Two Mics Up, we're all about supporting small businesses. And, Next Level Keys, my brother Quan, he's running a full service credit repair firm that renders optimum services to their customers in all facets and walks of life. It could be qualifying for a mortgage, getting that new car, or getting funds for your business. Contact Next Level Keys at support at nextlevelkeys.com. He's doing great work here in the DMV. Riddick Entertainment, a multifaceted event management firm based here in Northern VA. Riddick Entertainment's detailed creativity and precision event planning will give you a truly meaningful and memorable experience. Make sure you check out our friends at Riddick Entertainment. You can contact them at info.riddickentertainment.com. Tyson, I have to ask, coming back, you know, I wanted to change lanes just for a minute and get into a little politics.
Okay.
You know, as a young man, I see you smiling. As a young man, here in America, and I'm just curious to know what are your thoughts on the Biden and Harris administration?
Well, I think. Well, I do want to commend them. They did beat Trump and Pence. First of all, we
Hmm.
need to leave that disaster from the last 4 years. It was no, no, no. I don't. You can bring up the stock market. I know what I saw, but
Hmm.
I'm really pushing for the Biden and Harris administration to do something about student loans and police brutality. Those are the main two things.
Hmm.
With the more emphasis on police brutality, because that is something serious and near to dear to me as a black man and like living in a white area in Washington. Well, Washington is like 70-80%, but just being a black man, like physically fit in my 20s, I'm
Hmm.
definitely looking for them to do something about police brutality.
And
Yeah.
if I can ask, like, in what way are you looking for? Maybe police reform, or again, like you said, you're living in an area of municipality that really is 70-80% white. Um, and they can't do anything from a local standpoint. But what would you say across the board? Some type of mandate, federal mandate on states towards that police reform. Like, how would you see that coming about?
I really want them to. I mean, I'm kind of extreme. I want them to executive order something as it
Mm,
retains. This is a ongoing theme,
mm,
in the 2020s, 2010s, the 90s, the 80s. Like this is a real issue that black people. So I don't really know the specifics. I don't. They can pass laws. House is majority Democrat,
right.
Senate is majority Republican, but he can just executive order. I want them to just crack down on stop and frisk or just something.
Hmm.
Make it easier for like I don't know why we're seen as threats every time we just walk.
Mm. Well, you that's a great point. Because we did a show um recently here in Virginia. An organization called Failsafe ERA, and they deal with helping young men and women integrate back in the community from incarceration.
Mm-hmm.
And these were one of the things that we were talking about. The lady who was talking, she's dealing with it herself as a program manager. Her son is doing 28 years for basically. They said that he was fleeing the police because it was a checkpoint, and he didn't know it was. He just saw all the traffic backed up. He made a U-turn.
Mm-hmm.
They saw his lights turn the other way, and they chased him down. And long story short, he ends up getting 28 years.
Well, he didn't
No,
do anything though.
exactly.
Yeah. See, like, and they always want to group black people in a box.
Hmm.
Like, oh no, they all look alike. Like, huh?
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Okay. Well, I mean, I agree with you. We need to have some type of national reform or something, executive order, whatever it may be. And piggybacking on that, then, as a black man, you
Mhm.
know, what do you, in your opinion, what can we as black men, do to push that needle to fight against inequality and injustices out, against our community outside of that executive order? What else can we do on a day to day?
We have to start working as a team and get back on code. Somehow we broken code as black men. I would say
Mm,
that's number one. Number two, we gotta like commit. to our women and like have black families, have
Mm,
more and more black families, because I do see the interracial agenda being pushed heavily.
mm,
So that's something we could also do. We just have to be bento. We have to let first of all, we have to let young black boys know that not everyone's going to be an athlete. It's okay to be a doctor, a lawyer, or a police officer as long as helping to protect the community. Like we have
mm,
to. Those are like the little everyday things we can do. Like start with as black men. But
mm,
I don't.
mm,
I don't know how far we have to go to get to that point. I don't
mm.
know.
So do you think that conversation though? I guess my question, and within that, because I agree with you 200%.
Mhm.
But how do we broach those conversations, as men then? Like how do we get each other to be on the same page? Because I do like what you say, we've broken code.
Mhm.
So how even within that, because I think that's a real powerful narrative that you just gave, but how do we talk to each other about that? And how do we educate each other to do that, to change that?
It's difficult because you're dealing with ego.
Mm,
Some men think they're too good to sit in a town hall. Some men think activism is a form of weakness. I mean, you're not going to take everyone to the promised land, so you have to work with who is going to be there. I mean, I think it's yeah, you can't expect all black men to, come together, but you work with the people who are willing to change.
mm. I like that. Man, man, you touching on some real things right there. Got me to even say that. You're right. Ego is a hell of a thing in our community, man, and pride is definitely a hell of a thing.
More money, yeah, you can't really tell that person
Hmm.
what to do. So.
Wow, I really like that. You touching on some real things right there. Um, so then I have to guess this taking that everything that we just talked about,
Mhm.
and you as Tyson and your podcast, where or how do you see that helping to improve our culture?
Well, I'm letting people know that it's okay to have a podcast. Like it's okay to be a nerd and have a
Mm.
podcast. And not all podcasters are nerds, but it's okay.
Right, right.
It's okay to do things online. Like that's for starters. And then number two, just again, in persuading people to start businesses to teach self-sufficiency. Like I
Mm,
think that's really key for our survival, like moving forward. And when I say for our survival moving forward, people just start laughing and think I'm thinking in most extreme terms. But I do think there is some sort of like hidden agenda to like rid certain people in this country. This is
mm.
why I'm always on log. I'm always pushing entrepreneurship. I mean, sometimes we're gonna have to take jobs, but you can always like use the funds from your job to fund your side hustle. So
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
I like that because you even said like a hidden agenda.
Hmm.
Like, could you even dive into that? Because I
Like
think I know what you're talking about, but could you dive into that a little bit?
school to prison, like just little things. Like it's some systems are designed to just screw over black men.
Mm,
Like when someone is incarcerated, it's going to take a while for them to get back into society. And I'm just reading books. Like I read some Malcolm X books I picked up from Target, and it talked about how like some men in there were just brainwashed, and it's just certain things like school. I saw people say school is resembling prison. With
mm,
sitting down all day, lunch, someone just watching over you 24/7, trying to
mm.
control how you talk. I
That's
think
interesting.
there's certain things. Yeah.
That's interesting. I've never, and that's a very interesting concept that I've never really thought or put together. And this is why I love, talking with other men and young men. You're coming from a different perspective that I would have never, because I think school is definitely needed. I
Mhm.
think we need to be educated. I just think we need to be more vigilant in educating ourselves on what they're trying to educate us with. Meaning, you should ask questions. If it don't sit right, don't accept it. And there's a
World
way.
War II got maybe 3 chapters. World War I got 3 chapters. The civil rights maybe got a chapter or a half a chapter.
Right,
Slavery got like a speck.
right. And
Yeah.
you have to ask yourself why. But you really brought some insight to things that now makes me have to go back and reflect and really think on those things. Um, I would have to ask then, really, if you could, listening to this in our conversation, what do you think? No, not even what do you think. If you could, if Tyson could do
Mhm.
one thing to improve Black America, what would it be?
I would definitely like if I had the power to do anything.
If you had the power to do anything, and you could do just okay, you had the power to do anything, but there was one thing that you wanted to do just specifically for Black America, what would it be?
This may sound like silly, but I would definitely just purchase land. I
Mm,
think that's a start. Purchase land so we can get black people in one space. I think we're most populated down south.
mm-hmm.
I think I read Louisiana maybe.
Mm.
So I definitely would just purchase land. Just that's a base right there for whatever you want to build. Definitely just purchase land. It's a process,
Mm.
building things.
So with that though, do you think okay, because it just makes me want to ask,
Mhm.
do you think that so well, we already know that there really are two Americas. We can agree to that. But do you think it's better would it be best if we were separate or had our own separatism from America? Because
I'm still
building land.
employed. I'm still employed.
I got you.
um, I will say this. Talking to and reading books, talking to older people, some people were happy that they were excluded from white people.
Hmm.
Some people were happy. Not everyone liked each other, but they felt comfortable walking down the street. So I can see why you say yes and no. Some great things came out of integration. Some not so great things came out.
Hmm.
I do think we lost a sense of culture being integrated in a way. Like we don't sometimes we don't know our lineage and our history.
Mm.
Like I'm just now learning certain things like on YouTube or just reading a book as opposed to in school. So you could definitely make an argument for both sides for integration and segregation.
No, and I actually jokingly because I do agree. We are here, and capitalism work like I said. We all are gainfully employed, thankfully, on some level,
Hmm.
um, and you want to remain so. But I just agree. I just asked that based on your previous, answer by buying land.
Hmm.
That is a great way to start, but that just led me into has integration, as you just eloquently spoke on, has it really been as great as we think?
Great
Um,
as we think. Great as we think.
you know,
Well, if you look at the statistics, you gotta look at the gap,
mhm,
the wage gap. You gotta like look at everything.
as a collective.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no.
And that's really where I was getting, just being honest,
Hmm.
just having to look at it, you know, we know what, or we think we know what integration was intended to do, but it was never really intended for us anyway. So yes, we've made advances, but we have not advanced as far as our white counterparts, or even some others. Let's just be honest, other communities. So did it? And my question really just comes back to did it really work? And I agree with your statement. If I really had to look at the numbers, my gut and what I see tells me no. Some of us are in better places. The Oprahs,
Few black billionaires, but how are we doing as a race? Yeah.
right? And that's really what I'm talking about as a collective. So I agree with you on that one. Eh, Before I transition and we really get into a couple of closing remarks, I also want to take a few seconds to shout out a couple of more of our sponsors of the Two Mics Up podcast. We're all about supporting small businesses here. TD3 Insurance and Regina Leggett. TD3 Insurance agency protects and covers all your insurance needs from home, auto, renters, motorcycles, and life insurance. TD3 is licensed in DC, Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, and New York. Brand new office here in Woodbridge at 3985 Prince William Parkway, Suite 206. Regina Leggett, our Legal Shield Independent Associate. If you need legal advice or legal representation, the days of no longer being able to afford an attorney are long gone. Make sure you contact Regina Leggett, at reginaleggett.wearelegalshield.com. She can really help you start getting that justice that you really need and deserve. So, Tyson, as we close out,
Hmm.
I'm going to ask because I'm going to honor you today in your show, and one of
Appreciate
the
it.
things that I thought that you did, which was amazing, just an off the wall question. We're going to end on an off the wall question.
Hmm.
So, if you had an animal spirit, because some people believe that we have an alter ego or an alter alternate, excuse me, animal spirit. What would yours be and why?
Animal spirit.
Hmm.
Animal spirit. Here's the thing. I don't really know the animal that gets knocked down like 100 times and continues to get back up, because that definitely describes who I am. So if you know the animal, that's which one I am. If you don't know
I
that,
don't.
then go
I,
for it.
I don't know that one, but I like that, and I think that's a great way to close today because I think a lot of us in our community really need to understand that one thing that you said. It doesn't matter what the animal is, but if you get knocked down, keep getting up and keep fighting. And I can
Build character.
honestly,
Yeah, it's how you
mhm,
build character. That's how you like build respect for others and their process. It definitely humbles you. Yeah.
man, and that's what one of the things, ladies. I don't know. This is what I liked about this young man from the time that I met him and had the time of, sitting down with him on his show. It's that energy and that outlook. And I hope everyone listening and watching us today will get that, from Tyson, from this young man. Check him out. We're going to go ahead and we're going to put his link and all of that in the bio and in the feed. Check him out. And before we go, Tyson, let our listeners know where they can come see you, follow you, support you, and everything that you're doing.
Okay. On Twitter and Instagram, my username is at Tyson's Vibe. That's TysonSvibe. I post all my episode content on there. I post my sponsor for the month, all the good stuff. And to actually listen to an episode, you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, Radiohead, Google Podcasts, all the good stuff. It's the Tyson's Vibe podcast. It's TysonSvibe podcast. Same thing on YouTube. Just type it in the search bar, Tyson's Vibe, and my profile is the black and green one.
Man, love it, Tyson, man. Hey, I want to tell you from the bottom of my heart, thank you for coming
Anytime,
over.
anytime.
It's always a blast. And again, I'm a big fan of yours. I'm a big supporter, and we love that. We see you do the same for us. Uh, if there's anything that you need, whatever we can help you with, anything you got going on, please always just stay in touch, man, and share that info. We'll be
Thank
happy.
Thank
Definitely.
you. I'm a fan of your podcast, and I want you to grow and expand and definitely educate and inform people. Y'all don't have a mainstream media agenda. Y'all have a black agenda. I
Mhm.
love it. Continue to educate our people.
Thank you so much, my brother, man. It's been a pleasure and an honor, as always, to have you on with us. Ladies and gentlemen, before we go, we have to at least I want to acknowledge our two newest sponsors, from the Delaware, Philly area, DJ Coco Brown and Bubbles and Brews Philly. Again, we are here to support small businesses on Two Mics Up. DJ Coco Brown, Chanel Brown is an experienced DJ providing both mobile and virtual musical services. She's based out of Delaware, Philadelphia area, but she does travel. She's been here to the DMV to rock some parties. If you are interested in a DJ, contact Chanel Brown at chanel.brown@gmail.com. And Bubbles and Brews Philly. Look, anybody in Philly or Northern Jersey, this is like the craziest thing that I've seen in a long time. They are a vintage mobile Prosecco and craft beer bar. If you want to know what a Piaggio is, it's crazy. It's bananas. They really bring real different entertainment to your party. Check them out at Philly.cozy. I'm sorry. Just check them out. I'm going to go back to that screen because they really, uh, I want to make sure our newest sponsors, we get them out. Like I said, Bubbles and Brews Philly, I want to give correct information and I apologize for not having that on hand. And I'm going to let this slide through one more time. Coco Brown, DJ Coco Brown, Chanel.brown@gmail.com, and our friends over at Bubbles and Brews Philadelphia. Okay, why am I catching a dead spot? And here we go. Contact Bubbles and Bruce Phillies at Philly at getcozybars.com. So you definitely want to check them out. It's a hell of an experience. I've never seen anything like it, and I'm trying to see if we got one here in the DMV because it's crazy. I love it. As always, family, you can follow Two Mics Up online at www.twomicsup.com. You can follow us across IG, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. If you're watching us today, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the bell so you don't miss any upcoming episodes or any lives that we're doing. Thursday nights, 7:30 p.m. We are now live each and every Thursday. My co-host and I, we're going to pray that I don't get put out, I don't get in trouble, because I'm always something. I'm always something with the hashtag for Dame. So look out for our newest one coming Thursday. And like we always do at this time, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe, stay blessed. Mike's out.